Gachar Alliance ProMotion, the graphics chips time forgot. In the annals of computing history, certain names echo through time: Intel, AMD, NVIDIA, ATI. But tucked away in the forgotten corners of tech graveyards lies Alliance Semiconductor, a company that dared to dream of democratizing computer graphics in an era when most PCs displayed nothing more sophisticated than spreadsheets and text documents. From 1989 to 1999, Alliance ProMotion graphics chips powered millions of budget computers. Yet today their name is whispered only in the dusty forums, where vintage computing enthusiasts gather to mourn the technologies that time forgot. This is the story of a company that pioneered integrated graphics decades before Intel made it mainstream, achieved remarkable technical feats on shoestring budgets, and ultimately discovered that being first to market means nothing if you can't stay there long enough for history to remember your name. Alliance Semiconductor emerged from the entrepreneurial chaos of Silicon Valley in 1989, founded by a team of engineers who had cut their teeth at companies like Chips and Technologies and Western Digital. The founding vision was audacious for its time: create affordable graphic solutions that could be integrated directly into computer motherboards, eliminating the need for expensive, discrete graphics cards that added hundreds of dollars to system costs. While companies like ATI and S3 Graphics battled over the high-end market with increasingly powerful and expensive discrete cards, Alliance saw opportunity in the opposite direction. Their bet was that the future belonged not to graphics enthusiasts willing to pay premium prices for cutting-edge performance, but to mainstream consumers who simply wanted their computers to display Windows applications without breaking the bank. The company's initial funding came from a mixture of venture capital and strategic investments, including backing from semiconductor giant VLSI Technology, which would later prove both blessing and curse as Alliance navigated the treacherous waters of the graphics industry. The ProMotion brand debuted in 1993 with the AT24, a graphics controller that packed an impressive array of features into a single chip designed for integration into laptop computers and low-cost desktop systems. At a time when many computers still shipped with basic VGA graphics capable of displaying just 256 colors, the ProMotion AT24 supported true color modes with 16.7 million colors and resolutions up to 1024x768 pixels. More importantly for system integrators, the chip could be manufactured for under $10 in volume, compared to discrete graphics cards that often cost $50 to $100. Alliance's engineering team had achieved this cost breakthrough through clever architectural decisions, including the use of unified memory architecture that allowed the graphics chip to share system RAM rather than requiring expensive dedicated video memory. This approach would later become standard across the industry. But in 1993, it was revolutionary enough to catch the attention of major PC manufacturers desperate to hit aggressive price points in an increasingly competitive market. The ProMotion AT3D, launched in 1995, represented Alliance's ambitious attempt to ride the emerging wave of 3D graphics acceleration that was transforming the gaming industry. While 3DFX was capturing headlines with the Voodoo graphics card and its stunning Quake performance, Alliance engineers were working to bring basic 3D capabilities to the integrated graphics market at a fraction of the cost. The AT3D supported hardware acceleration for Gouraud shading, texture mapping, and Z-buffering, features that were typically found only in expensive dedicated cards costing several $100s. Alliance achieved this integration by partnering with Rendition, licensing their Verite graphics architecture, and adapting it for the cost-constrained integrated market. The result was a chip that could run popular 3D games like Tomb Raider and Quake at playable frame rates, though admittedly at lower resolutions and detail settings than high-end discrete solutions. For consumers purchasing sub-$1,000 computers from manufacturers like Packard Bell and Compaq, the AT3D represented their first taste of the 3D revolution that was reshaping the computing landscape. Alliance's greatest commercial success came through strategic partnerships with major PC manufacturers who were locked in brutal price wars throughout the mid-1990s. Companies like Acer, AST Computer, and NEC adopted ProMotion chips for their budget desktop and laptop lines, attracted by the combination of reasonable performance and rock-bottom pricing that Alliance offered. The company's sales peaked in 1996 when ProMotion chips shipped in over 4 million computers worldwide, generating revenue of approximately $75 million and briefly making Alliance one of the top 5 graphics chip suppliers in the world. This success was built on Alliance's ability to deliver complete graphics solutions that included not just the chips themselves, but also device drivers, reference designs, and technical support that made integration painless for PC manufacturers operating on razor-thin margins. The company's engineering team, which never exceeded 200 people, managed to support graphics solutions across 3 different processor architectures and dozens of system configurations, a logistical feat that larger competitors often struggled to match. However, Alliance's integrated graphics approach carried inherent technical limitations that became increasingly problematic as software demands escalated throughout the late 1990s. The unified memory architecture that enabled ProMotion's low costs also created performance bottlenecks, as graphics operations had to compete with the main processor for access to system RAM. While this compromise was acceptable for basic Windows applications and simple games, it proved inadequate for the increasingly sophisticated 3D titles that were defining the gaming market. Games like Quake 2 and Unreal exposed the fundamental weaknesses in Alliance's architecture, delivering frame rates that were often half those achieved by dedicated graphics cards from competitors like 3DFX, NVIDIA, and ATI. The company attempted to address these limitations with the ProMotion 6422, launched in 1997, which featured improved memory bandwidth and enhanced 3D capabilities, but by then the performance gap had widened to the point where even budget-conscious consumers were beginning to notice the difference. The business pressures facing Alliance intensified dramatically as the graphics industry consolidated around a handful of well-funded competitors in the late 1990s. NVIDIA's IPO in 1999 provided that company with hundreds of millions in capital to fund research and development, while ATI leveraged its relationship with Microsoft to optimize graphics drivers for Windows 98 and DirectX. Alliance, meanwhile, struggled to maintain pace with an annual R&D budget that peaked at just $15 million, roughly 1/10 of what NVIDIA was spending on graphics development. The company's financial situation was further complicated by its relationship with foundry partner TSMC, which began prioritizing wafer allocation for larger customers as semiconductor demand surged. Alliance found itself pushed to the back of the queue for advanced manufacturing processes, forcing the company to ship graphics chips built on older, less efficient technologies while competitors moved to cutting-edge fabrication nodes that delivered better performance per dollar. Alliance's final attempt to remain relevant came with the ProMotion 6410 and 6420 series, launched in 1998 as the company's most ambitious graphics chips to date. These processors featured hardware support for DirectX 6, DVD video acceleration, and dual display capabilities that allowed users to connect 2 monitors simultaneously. The engineering team had also addressed many of the memory bandwidth limitations that plagued earlier ProMotion chips, implementing more sophisticated caching mechanisms and memory controllers that significantly improved performance in 3D applications. However, these improvements came at a cost both in terms of manufacturing expenses and design complexity, pushing ProMotion chips into price territory, where they competed directly with discrete graphics cards from better established competitors. System integrators who had previously chosen Alliance for cost reasons now found themselves comparing ProMotion solutions against discrete cards from companies with stronger brand recognition and superior performance, a comparison that rarely favored Alliance. The death knell for Alliance's graphics ambitions came in early 1999 when the company's board of directors, facing mounting losses and increased competition from Intel's own integrated graphics initiatives, decided to exit the graphics market entirely and focus on memory controller and networking chip designs. The final ProMotion chips rolled off production lines in late 1999, ending a decade-long journey that had seen Alliance pioneer many of the integrated graphics concepts that would later become industry standard. Intel's acquisition of Real 3D and subsequent development of integrated graphics solutions validated Alliance's original vision. But by then, the window of opportunity had closed. The company's graphics patents were sold to various competitors, its engineering talent scattered to companies like NVIDIA, ATI, and Intel, and its ProMotion brand relegated to the dustbin of computing history alongside other forgotten pioneers like No. 9 Visual Technology and Oak Technology. The legacy of Alliance ProMotion extends far beyond the company's commercial failure, representing one of computing's great what-if scenarios and a cautionary tale about the challenges facing innovative companies in rapidly evolving markets. Alliance correctly predicted that integrated graphics would eventually dominate the mainstream market, pioneered unified memory architectures that became industry standard, and delivered 3D capabilities to millions of consumers who otherwise would have been locked out of the graphics revolution. Their engineering achievements were remarkable considering the resource constraints under which the company operated, and many of the cost reduction techniques developed by Alliance engineers were later adopted by successful competitors. However, Alliance also demonstrated the harsh reality that technological vision alone is insufficient for long-term success in the semiconductor industry, where massive capital requirements, complex supply chain relationships, and network effects favor large, well-funded companies over innovative startups. Today, as integrated graphics solutions from Intel, AMD, and Apple deliver performance that would have been unimaginable during Alliance's heyday, it's worth remembering the forgotten pioneers who first dared to imagine graphics capabilities for every computer user, rather than just wealthy enthusiasts. Alliance ProMotion chips may have disappeared from the market over 2 decades ago, but their influence lives on in every modern processor with integrated graphics, every smartphone GPU, and every embedded system that renders complex visual interfaces on minimal power budgets. In the rapidly evolving technology industry where yesterday's innovations quickly become today's forgotten footnotes, Alliance Semiconductor serves as a reminder that being right about the future isn't always enough to secure a place in history's winner's circle, and that sometimes the most important pioneers are the ones whose names are written not in Silicon Hall of Fame, but in the collective memory of an industry that built upon their foundations to reach heights they could only dream of achieving.